Number 9. MS World Discoverer. The MS World Discoverer was a German-built cruise ship made in 1974. It started its life by carting people around on their vacations. It was built to withstand the frigid Arctic and was capable of navigating much of the icy Northwestern Passage. The ship even occasionally went on Antarctic cruises. Yet the durable vessel unexpectedly met its end when it struck an uncharted reef near the Solomon Islands in the year 2000. A ferry responded to the captain's distress signal and safely evacuated all the passengers. The ship began to list, so the captain grounded it in Roderick Bay to prevent it from sinking. Insurance inspectors classified the wreck as a loss. Ever since, the World Discoverer has sat, neglected, and slowly sinking, still in Roderick Bay. It's practically laying on its side, currently listing at 46 degrees. It's more or less inevitable that the vessel will eventually be completely lost below the surface of the water. Time, neglect, and the elements have not been kind to the ship. Over the years, several companies have tried to salvage the World Discoverer, but they found that on top of being damaged by Mother Nature, it was ransacked by locals during a violent civil war on the islands. Simply put, there was no saving the doomed ship. The wreck has become a tourist destination, but who knows how long it'll be there. So if you have a nagging itch to see it, you'd better do so before it's too late. Number 8. Chicken Church. Back in the 1990s, a man named Daniel Alamja felt inspired by God to build a prayer house that he had a dream about. Even though he's a devout Christian, Alamja envisioned a site that welcomed all religions. More specifically, he wanted the building to be in the shape of a dove and to sit atop a hillside near his home in central Java, Indonesia. The ambitious man bought an acre of land and got to work. Alamja's creation ended up looking more like a hen than a dove, earning it the nickname Gereja Ayam, or Chicken Church. But he went ahead and opened it to the public anyway. Various religions held services on the upper floors, while the lower levels were used for rehabilitating drug addicts and caring for disabled children. The site even functioned as an asylum for the mentally ill. But philanthropy doesn't pay the bills, and Alamja eventually went broke. To make matters worse, locals weren't as excited about his humanitarian vision as he was, and they didn't hesitate to let him know. Feeling he had no other choice, Alamja left the bizarre building behind in 2000. Since then, time and the elements have taken their toll on the Chicken Church, and it's currently in a state of decay. But that hasn't stopped stories and pictures from circulating on the internet, drawing curious visitors to the site from near and far. People have even gotten married and had their wedding photos taken there. The Chicken Church became so popular that some people have helped to make it look a tad less decrepit by covering the walls with vibrant murals and even opening a cafe inside. Only Mr. Alamja himself knows exactly what was going on in his mind when he decided to build this strange structure. But its late blooming popularity means that at least one of his desires was fulfilled: to see people enjoying the Chicken Church. Number 7. Boss 400 Shipwreck. In 1994, a French crane barge named the Boss 400 ran aground during a storm in Maori Bay off the South African coast. At the time, it was the largest floating crane in Africa, and it was capable of lifting 1,200 tons, but the Boss 400 lacked engines of its own and had to be towed from place to place by a tugboat. The barge was being pulled by an underpowered Russian tug called the Tiger when it hit the rocks. It was en route to Cape Town from the Republic of Congo and had almost reached its destination when the tow rope broke. The crew radioed for help, and 2 more tugboats radioed to the scene. But the seas were rough, and they failed to connect any lines to the barge. Left with no other choice than to abandon the ship, the crew members were airlifted to safety. Several salvage attempts were made, but in the end, the Boss 400 was declared a total loss. Its owners had no choice but to leave the $70 million barge nestled among the boulders where it remains today. For now, the crane and part of the vessel are visible above sea level, but the wreck is disintegrating and will eventually disappear beneath the waves. Number 6. Wanli UFO Village. About an hour's drive outside the Taiwanese capital of Taipei, there's a mysterious abandoned holiday resort that looks like something from another world. Known as the Wanli UFO Village or the Sanji Village, the failed housing development was designed by Finnish architect Matti Saarinen during the 1970s and 80s. The plans consisted of 2 types of houses: Futuro dwellings, which resembled flying saucers, and Venturo homes, which were slightly more normal looking but still had an extraterrestrial feel. Saarinen designed these abodes to be part of a futuristic, upscale, and high-tech beachside resort. But for reasons that remain unclear to this day, the project was abandoned during the 1980s. Some people actually live in these prefabricated otherworldly homes, but most are empty, and some parts of the village have been demolished according to remote lands. Although the development never fully came to fruition, it's successful in its own right as a dilapidated tourist destination. What's left of the settlement consists of strangely shaped decaying houses and roads with grass growing through the pavement. The homes have rusting metal fixtures, faded paintings on the walls, and other telltale signs of decomposition and desertion. Roofs are caved in, windows are shattered, and the walls are crumbling. For years, rumors circulated about developers planning to fully demolish the site and build something more promising, but it hasn't happened yet. It appears as though Taiwan's tourism industry benefits from the decrepit neighborhood that was never lived in, but seems to attract visitors to the island. Would you ever stay in a place like this? Let us know in the comments down below, and if you're liking this video, be sure to hit thumbs up and subscribe if you haven't already. Number 5. Chantillan Car Graveyard. There was a spooky car graveyard full of rusting automobiles in southern Belgium. Nestled within a small forest near the village of Chantillan, the vehicles supposedly belonged to U.S. soldiers who were stationed in the area during World War I, according to one story at least. When the war ended and it was time to return home, it would have been extremely expensive for American troops to ship the cars they had bought overseas back to the States. To spare themselves the cost, the soldiers allegedly drove the vehicles into the woods, parked them neatly in rows, and simply left them behind. If this story is true, it means that nobody ever missed their car enough to go back and get it. Locals are quick to point out that many of the vehicles at the site were made after World War II, suggesting that perhaps it's just an ordinary junkyard in a weird place. The cars were removed from the forest in 2010 though, so we'll probably never know the full story behind the strange site, which lives on only in photographs. Number 4. Lake Reschen Bell Tower. Lake Reschen is a man-made lake in South Tyrol, Italy, near the Austrian and Swiss borders. It's famous for a 14th century steeple that sticks out of the water. The lake wasn't always there though. Back in 1920, there were plans to create a smaller, shallower body of water as a reservoir for a hydroelectric plant. Then in 1939, the chemical company Montecatini proposed to create a larger lake than originally planned by bringing two natural bodies of water together. This would require builders to submerge several villages. The project was delayed several times due to World War II and resistance from locals who didn't want their homes and land to be put underwater. Finally, in 1950, water began to flow into the Vinschgau Valley, drowning 163 homes and 1,290 acres of cultivated land. Before the lake was made, workers demolished the nave of the Church of St. Caterina and removed the bells from its steeple. Founded in 1357, the historic house of worship once stood as a testament to the area's long and rich history. Most of it is no longer there. But for whatever reason, the bell tower was left in place, and now it's become somewhat of a tourist attraction. Authorities have even drained the lake on a few occasions to perform maintenance on it, ensuring that the steeple continues to stand, even though the rest of the town wasn't considered important enough to save. Even though there are no longer any bells in the tower, local legend claims that you can sometimes hear them ringing during the winter. Number 3. Lapis Castle. Lapis Castle isn't really a castle, but that's what it's called, and it's kind of what it looks like too. Confused? So are we. Located in northern Poland, the structure is actually a derelict mansion that was abandoned before it was finished being built. Construction began in 1979 on what was supposed to be a grand estate and studio for an artist named Peter Kazimierziak. His dream home was supposed to include a swimming pool, a ballroom, ramparts, and 12 towers representing the 12 apostles, according to Atlas Obscura. But Kazimierziak ran out of money while it was being built, and the mansion was partially on land that he didn't exactly have a permit to build on. The artist had no choice but to abandon the partially finished home. No banks were willing to purchase the site due to its extremely high cost and incomplete state. In 2006, Kazimierziak was ordered to demolish the strange eyesore. He couldn't afford to do so, and the local council said they would have it knocked down at some point in the near future. However, 15 years later, Lapis Castle still stands. Some sources have said that Kazimierziak hasn't given up on his vision, and that he's even trying to get permission to resume the construction. But for now, the medieval-looking mansion is an empty shell with graffiti all over its walls. Word has it that it's falling into a state of decay and losing its structural integrity, which of course attracts urban explorers who enter the property at their own risk. What the future holds for Lapis Castle is anyone's guess. Number 2. Bartini Berva14 plane. During the Cold War, the United States and the Soviet Union competed to outsupply the other with military equipment. This frenzied contest was quite possibly the biggest and most expensive arms race in history. During this tense time, the Soviet Union made it a priority to prepare for missile strikes from deep in the ocean. To combat these threats, the Soviet Navy developed a strange-looking aircraft called the Bartini Berva14 plane. This amphibious vehicle operated on both the water and in the air. Its primary task was to detect American submarines and prevent nuclear missile strikes. The strange-looking aircraft was named after its Italian-born designer, Robert Bartini. It was perched on pontoons and was piloted by a three-man crew. The plane was capable of vertical takeoff, taking off and landing in the water or on land, and skimming along the water while patrolling for enemy submarines. 2 prototypes were built, but the project was ultimately scrapped. Only 1 prototype survives today. It sits near the Russian Air Force Museum outside Moscow and is more of an eyesore than a museum exhibit. The lonely, dilapidated aircraft is missing its wings and serves as a reminder of the immense time and money that was spent on failed innovations during the Cold War. In 2013, a group of aviation enthusiasts campaigned to revive the Bartini Berva14 plane, but their efforts were unsuccessful. Number 1. Teufelsberg Spy Station. On the edge of Berlin in the Grunewald forest, there's a 262-foot, 80-meter hill known as Teufelsberg, or Devil's Hill. It was created with debris from thousands of buildings that were destroyed during World War II. Up to 800 truckloads of rubbish were dumped at the site every day for years. During the 1950s, the U.S. National Security Agency, NSA, built a station on the hill for spying on communist East Germany. It consisted of large round buildings called radomes, as well as huge satellite dishes that were used for intercepting and jamming correspondences among members of the Eastern Bloc. American intelligence officials used the facility until the Berlin Wall fell in 1989, signaling the end of the Cold War. After that, the site functioned as an air traffic control center for 10 years. The government sold the property in 1999, but it was never redeveloped. 5 large decommissioned radar domes remain standing on Devil's Hill today, serving as an eerie reminder of Cold War-era tensions and paranoia between nations. Visitors can tour certain parts of the graffiti-covered decrepit facility, but if you're not sold on the idea of visiting an abandoned intelligence base, Teufelsberg is worth a trip for the stunning views it offers of the Berlin skyline. Documents from Teufelsberg are slated to become declassified next year and will provide the first-ever glimpse into the site's daily activities. Number 11. Glow-in-the-dark mushrooms. The world is home to nearly 100 known bioluminescent mushroom species. The newest one, known as Roridomyces philostocades, was discovered late last year in northeastern India as part of a scientific project to document mushroom species. The fungus was spotted along a stream during monsoon season in August 2020, according to the India Times. Locals already knew about the fungus, which they call electric mushrooms. A local led researchers to it in the middle of the night and instructed them to put their torches out. Several of the light-emitting mushrooms instantly began to glow. Only the mushroom stalks are bioluminescent, which made the team realize that it might be a new species. They took the samples back to their lab and, sure enough, their suspicions proved correct. It's also the first species of its genus ever found in India, and one of just a handful of growing fungi ever found in the country. But there are probably more out there just waiting to be discovered. Number 10. Hidden Cemetery. You may be surprised to learn that there are historic cemeteries in many places throughout the world that have been forgotten over time. One was recently discovered in West Greenwich, Rhode Island by a man named Brian Page, who had just purchased the land that the graveyard is located on. He stumbled upon the cemetery after following an ungated path into the forest. Speaking with news station WPRI, Page said that his family had no idea that the burial ground was on his property, and he described feeling pretty shocked about it. At just 1,545 square miles, 4,002 kilometers squared, Rhode Island is the smallest state in the U.S., yet it has over 3,200 historical cemeteries, including the one that Page discovered. In the records, it's simply labeled as Historic Cemetery 96. It was lost for about a century, as evidenced by the toppling headstones and overgrowth of vegetation that Page observed. Understanding the site's historical importance, he summoned his friends and family to help restore it. They spent hours tidying the graveyard up, and Page continues to maintain it to this day. But the most exciting discovery came after the landowner noticed that 3 headstones in the cemetery belonged to people with the last name Gates. Through Ancestry.com, Page traced all 3 to billionaire Bill Gates' family. Number 9. Bizarre wartime climate anomaly. Over 8.5 million soldiers died during World War I, but warfare alone was not the only cause of death. According to a study published last year, a unique weather system that scientists describe as a 1 in 100-year climate anomaly lingered throughout Europe from 1914 to 1919. And it dramatically increased the war's casualties. The atypical weather system was coincidentally most active right before or during some of the war's biggest battles. It caused torrential rain and uncharacteristically cold temperatures. Battlefields at Verdun, the Somme, Ypres, and elsewhere became waterlogged, causing some of the war's most major losses of life. Many soldiers died from disease or drowned in mud holes. Others stood in water for days and developed trench foot or frostbite. The most dangerous conditions that the thick mud created also slowed soldiers and their horses down and made it difficult to move equipment. Research claims that the climate anomaly worsened the war by making the environment even more dangerous. Scientists also blamed the weather system for worsening the 1918 influenza pandemic, commonly and inaccurately called the Spanish flu. In fact, experts think the weather system might have even started the pandemic by altering the migration behavior of ducks, which are known to carry the virus. Normally, the ducks migrate to Russia every year. Instead, they stayed in one place, putting them and their feces in close proximity to human populations and possibly contaminating local water supplies. Number 8. Buren test shuttles. If you had the chance to check out an abandoned space shuttle, would you do it? You know, a project originally designed to send human beings to another planet. It sounds like the adventure of a lifetime. But the Buren program was a Soviet space shuttle project that ran from 1974 to 1993. It was launched in response to the development of the U.S. space shuttle with its goal to design a reusable spacecraft. The Buren Orbiter 1K1 shuttle only completed one uncrewed orbit before the program was suspended indefinitely due to the high costs it came with. President Boris Yeltsin officially canceled the project in 1993, a few years after the Soviet Union collapsed. The shuttle was called the Orbiter 1K1 and was destroyed in a different hangar of the same complex, which in 2002 collapsed, tragically killing 8 workers. 2 of the prototypes are kept in an abandoned hangar in Kazakhstan called the Baikonur Cosmodrome, which is still an active site today. But the test spacecrafts are still there, frozen in time and mostly forgotten, besides a few urban explorers that know about the site. A film director named Alexander Kunas walked 24 miles, 38.6 kilometers through the desert to reach the hangar and spent 3 nights sleeping in the area, according to Cater's news agency. But the site is secure, so he had to sneak in the middle of the night and understood that he was risking getting into some trouble. It turned out to be worth it because he managed to snap some fascinating photos of the prototypes. Number 7. Egypt's Lost Golden City. Earlier this year, Egypt's Ministry of Antiquities announced the discovery of ruins from the so-called Lost Golden City of Luxor. Dating back over 3,000 years, the ancient city was found buried in the sand by a team of archaeologists who were looking for King Tut's mortuary temple. According to excavation leader Zahi Hawass, it's the largest ancient Egyptian city ever discovered. Other researchers had tried and failed to find the city many times before. The team first realized they had found something important when they encountered zigzagging mud walls measuring as high as 10 feet, 3 meters. Archaeologist Betsy Bryan described the site as the most important discovery in Egypt since King Tut's tomb was found in 1922. The Golden City will help experts better understand life during Egypt's Golden Age, according to Hawass, who spoke with NBC. So far, the team has unearthed rings, scarabs, pottery, tools, and other artifacts which date back between 1391 and 1353 BC during the reign of Amenhotep III. The site contains storage houses, grinding stones, and areas for meat production, offering an unprecedented glimpse into everyday life in an ancient Egyptian industrial city. The archaeologists also found a skeleton with outstretched arms and a rope around the person's knees. They have yet to come up with an explanation for the odd burial and have several other lingering questions about the site, which they hope will be answered during future digs. Number 6. Water on the Moon. Late last year, NASA confirmed that water has finally been discovered on the Moon. The agency's Stratospheric Observatory for Infrared Astronomy, nicknamed SOFIA, detected the H2O in the Moon's southern hemisphere in a sunlit area called the Clavius Crater. Altogether, the discovery amounted to the equivalent of a 12-ounce bottle of water. It defies previous findings that any water molecules on the Moon would be in cold, unlit regions. Researchers wrote that while the new information changes their understanding of the distribution of the Moon's water molecules, they still do not believe that water could be present anywhere on the Moon. After all, it wasn't a lot of water. To give you an idea, the Sahara Desert has roughly 100 times more water than what was found on the Moon, and that's one of the driest places on Earth. But it's still a major discovery, leaving experts with new questions to find the answers to, including how the Moon's water is created and how it withstands the harsh lunar environment. Scientists had long suspected that there's water on the Moon, but they only detected it in the form of ice in the 20 years leading up to this recent discovery. The news came along with an announcement from NASA that it plans to put astronauts back on the Moon in 2024 and to establish a consistent presence there by 2030. If you have the opportunity to go to space, would you take it? Let us know in the comments down below, and if you're liking this video, be sure to hit the thumbs up and subscribe buttons if you haven't already. Number 5. Prehistoric Turtle. While inspecting the ruins of an old church in Christchurch, New Zealand, a sculptor named Paul Deans discovered a 35-million-year-old fossil of a turtle embedded in the core of a limestone pillar. The Oxford Terrace Baptist Church was built between 1881 and 1882. It suffered severe damage in a series of earthquakes in 2011 and was then demolished. The building's pillars were hollowed out and sent to Deans, who planned to use them for his work. This led him to the unexpected discovery. According to Dr. Paul Schofield, who is a senior curator of natural history at the Canterbury Museum, the unnamed ancient turtle species resembles another turtle fossil that a builder found while quarrying limestone in Oamaru in 1880. He concluded that both fossils were probably extracted from the same quarry and may even contain parts of the same animal. Speaking with stuff.co.nz, Schofield explained, turtle fossils are really rare in New Zealand. He also said that no other turtle fossils have been found at the quarry in the last 150 years. Scientists are studying the newly discovered piece. They plan to examine microfossils surrounding the turtle to determine if the two fossils are from the same animal. Schofield speculated that the prehistoric species was a sea turtle similar in size to the modern-day leatherback turtle, which grows up to 7.2 feet, 2.2 meters long. It lived between 65.5 million to 23 million years ago, when New Zealand was covered in shallow seawater. Number 4. Spy Boat. In late 2020, a high-end solar-powered spy boat washed ashore on the remote Scottish island of Tiree. Beachgoers discovered the mysterious vehicle near a military base between some large rocks and contacted the Coast Guard. Only the US Navy and the British Royal Navy used that particular model of boat, called a wave glider spy vessel. Yet nobody ever came forward to claim it. The boat is not equipped with lights, leading some to believe that it was used for illicit purposes. One theory suggests that the boat is a Russian-made replica of the wave glider and that it was perhaps in the area to spy on the British military. And it's true that the Russian military developed a vessel like this in 2016 known as the Fugu, but the claims about Russia being responsible for the unidentified boat remain unsubstantiated. It makes sense that a spy boat would be near Tiree, which is along a route that British nuclear submarines would take to reach the North Atlantic. But for now, nobody knows whose boat it is and why or how it ended up there. Number 3. Hidden Frescoes. A few years ago, Tufts University professor Christina Moranci traveled to Armenia to investigate archaeological sites that are typically off-limits to researchers. She found herself hiding from local police inside the Buren Cathedral, where she suspected that something was written beneath the plaster on the walls. Moranci took some photos and used Photoshop to enhance their obscured features. She discovered traces of hidden frescoes and inscriptions that are invisible to the naked eye, including an ox in the church's apse. The adventurous historian believes the image is an early 11th century depiction of the biblical figure Ezekiel with an ox, a lion, a man, and an angel, the symbols of the four evangelists Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. But Moranci admitted that she's just speculating, and that more investigation is needed to confirm the fresco's age and meaning. Moranci was not particularly interested in frescoes when she made the discovery, but the finding inspired her to investigate other old churches for similar features. She credits Photoshop, a widely available program, for helping her to find the concealed frescoes, but also said that it's important for a researcher to know what they're looking for. Moranci continues to study her findings and hopes to overcome several obstacles surrounding the discovery, including legal policies that prevent researchers from exploring valuable sites in the region. Number 2. Medieval Tunnel. While digging a hole for a new power line pole in Monmouthshire, Wales earlier this year, electrical workers discovered a mysterious network of tunnels running beneath a 12th century abbey. Situated along a stream, the tunnel system is just 4 feet, 1.2 meters tall. There's no record of it being built, leaving archaeologists baffled about what the tunnels were used for or how big the network is. The system does not appear on any maps created by the UK's mapping agency, which date back to the 18th century. This explains why the power company had permission to dig at an archaeological site that they normally wouldn't have been allowed to dig at. The tunnels may be connected to the nearby Tintern Abbey. This so-called national icon of Wales was built in 1131. It fell into disrepair after King Henry VIII closed down monasteries during the 16th century, which could possibly be why the tunnels are absent from historical records. The network could also be associated with the ruins of old furnaces and ironworks in the area. Technician Alan Gore, who participated in the discovery, said that he's been involved in other excavations of old wells and cellars that are not documented, but that the tunnels are by far the most exciting and impressive find that he's been a part of. The electrical work was rerouted, and archaeologists plan to thoroughly excavate the system in hopes of learning more about its origins. Number 1. Ancient Fish. A group of geologists discovered the remarkably well-preserved bones of an ancient fish while studying sediment cores that were collected from coastal lakes in Norway. The fossil belonged to a species called the three-spined stickleback fish. It lived in brackish waters around 12,000 years ago, a time when the lake it was found in was nearly but not entirely disconnected from the sea. After the ice sheets melted at the end of the last ice age, coastlines throughout the northern hemisphere experienced an uplift, creating inland lakes that effectively cut the three-spined stickleback off from the ocean. A recent study revealed that stickleback populations in separate places evolved to survive in their new freshwater environments. In a phenomenon known as parallel evolution, both experienced similar changes in behavior, function, and appearance. Scientists typically rely on modern-day species for learning about parallel evolution. The rare opportunity to study these types of changes in an ancient animal eliminated some of the guesswork that comes with identifying ancient and modern evolutionary traits. For the study, the team extracted DNA from 2 prehistoric stickleback fish and compared the results against modern specimens. They found that the ancient fish already had genetic variants that resulted from their adjustments to freshwater. These findings are helping experts to better learn the ways evolution occurs over thousands or even tens of thousands of years, and are helping to fill in some of the gaps of evolutionary timelines. Thanks for watching. Which one of these discoveries would you be most excited about? Let us know in the comments below, and if you enjoyed today's video, be sure to give it a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe. Thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you next time for another amazing video right here on American Eye.